Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and interesting video for you guys today, because I am taking a look at a static recomp of Tekken 3 on PlayStation 1. And honestly, Tekken 3, probably the best game in the original trilogy in my opinion. I do love Tekken Tag Tournament as well, but it's one of those things. I remember playing the ever-loving hell out of this game when I was in high school when it came out. My friends and I loved it. We would always hang out and get some matches in, and still to this day, even if it isn't the prettiest game to ever exist, as far as fighting games are concerned, it is still absolutely a 10 out of 10 in the fun factor department. And with the static recomp, we're definitely going to be talking about exactly what it brings to the table, and honestly a little bit about what actually happens when you have something like a PlayStation 1 recomp versus DuckStation. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, you got a Patreon link down below as well. And honestly, we have to talk about this from two different perspectives: how successful the static recomp is at actually being Tekken 3, and what it's bringing to the table outside of something like you could do in DuckStation. And it really is becoming kind of an interesting conversation about recomps in general. I would say that on the N64 side of things, even the best emulators really aren't doing exactly the same thing as a static recomp or PC source port of an N64 title. Where on the PlayStation 1 side of things, DuckStation is so incredible with its internal running resolution upscales, with its ability to give you better frame rates, and even fix all the polygonal warping on PlayStation 1 hardware, that a recomp has to do a lot to basically not justify its existence, but kind of have an explanation as to where it's going in the future. And that is still an exciting thing, because I will say right now, modifying and adding features to a static recomp is definitely easier than trying to go into something like the actual ISO files of a PlayStation 1 disc and do those actual ROM hacks. And if you want to add features, you'd have to add them to DuckStation for any individual game. Think of a future in which something like a Tekken 3 static recomp has an online server and the ability to play against friends everywhere in the world. Now, I'm not saying that that's something that's going to happen. I'm saying that it's more of a potential on the static recomp side of things than it is on the emulation side of things, at least for individual games. Because I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video. I always change up my schedule basically last minute for what I'm in the mood to talk about, but there is going to be a new static recomp of Diddy Kong Racing for N64 that is going to be bringing in online split screen multiplayer. That is definitely something that is going to be above and beyond what is usually done with emulation, and it's going to be done with a little bit easier of a setup. So something like a Tekken 3 static recomp definitely gives us that potential in the future. It is just a potential that we need to realize first. But as far as a recomp of Tekken 3 is concerned, you can see here the motion is fluid, there really isn't any warping in the polygons, there is no latency in the input whatsoever. It really just plays like the game you know, love, and remember, including the absolute ridiculous pseudo beat-em-up mode, which is definitely not that much fun and definitely janky, but something really fun to talk about when we talk about Tekken in general. And also, when I'm testing a static recomp, I like to go through all the modes to make sure it isn't just the mainline mode that would be working where everything else might have some issues. But in my time playing around with this one, I was able to play from start to finish. There wasn't really any issues at all. It just kind of did exactly what I needed it to do. And that little pause there is it basically loading in the first fight against Lee here. And if you've never played the beat 'em up mode in Tekken 3, it is definitely a vibe, and I can't recommend it enough just to see where you can actually tell where an engine holds up and falls down flat. Because Tekken 3 is a fighting game, absolutely 10 out of 10 fun. Tekken 3 is a beat 'em up, like 6 out of 10 jank in all the best and most hilarious ways possible. But getting back into the main reason anyone would play Tekken 3 for any reason whatsoever, it is obvious that this is definitely working well, and it is a fun time to play. So I don't think my kind of question of what more can it bring to the table is me saying it isn't worth it. Anyone who wants to make anything can definitely spend their time and energy on bringing us exactly that. Hopefully the modding community, the Tekken community, can rally around something like this to maybe bring more to it, because it's just easier to deal with a static recomp than it is trying to actually just ROM hack a disk image. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it basically lowers the barrier of entry. And really, if we have a Tekken 3 static recomp, we're all winners just because it is such a fun game. Let's do the first of two soundtrack samples so you can hear the audio quality, and I'll be right back with more. Fight!
You win. Round 2. Fight. 1, fight!
I mean, that definitely just sounds like Tekken 3 to me, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you notice anything in the overall audio capture there, because every once in a while I do miss things, because really audio is not my strong suit, and it's something I really don't like to deal with outside of the channel. But as we play through more of the Tekken 3 recomp, it really does say that there is a lot of possibility out there for some fighting game recomps. Mostly we've seen it with something like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike with the PC port based upon the decompilation, which is not the same thing as a static recomp, even if the end result is an executable that you double click on your system and play a game away that it was never designed to play, but they do fundamentally different things, even if you really don't know unless you look into the tech underneath it. Like I said, with a lot of the different PC ports and recomps, we've seen a lot more features, like the ability to bring in texture packs, the ability to change out assets, bring in mods and everything else. So when I say a static recomp comes out, it's basically doing something that is 10 out of 10 fun, but also doing the same thing DuckStation can do. It really is future looking, because it's like anything. If you go out to the store and you buy a hammer, it really isn't useful until you actually decide to build a project around it. Something like a Tekken 3 recomp is useful day one because you can play it and it runs smoothly and has no latency, but it really is a tool that other people can come around and use to bring us even more stuff. And that really is what I hope to see with some of these fighting games. I want to see complete online support, maybe even with rollback netcode. I want to see a bunch of mods and different things coming in just to allow us to have even more fun with what amounts to one of the best 3D fighting games on the PlayStation 1. So a lot of these videos are talking about the future potential of things that we could just have fun with in the actual future going forward. Now that overall potential is never guaranteed on any project, whether it's N64 or any other system. We've seen some recomps and PC ports that have got a ton of new features, a ton of new stuff going on in them, and we've seen some static recomps that basically come out, run the game slightly faster, and that's the last time that they ever get updated because the community didn't really rally around them, or there isn't really that big of a community for those games. Now Tekken 3, however, has an absolutely massive fan base and community, so if any game that's going to get a PlayStation 1 recomp in the fighting genre is going to see that support, I definitely do feel like it would be Tekken 3. Which leads me to my next question. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you could see one thing added to Tekken 3, what would it be? For me, obviously, I've said it already, it would be online netcode, so you can play this game with other people across the world and not have to have a friend in your life that plays fighting games. Because I know exactly 0 people that play fighting games and only 1 person in my real life that even plays video games in general. So I never get a match unless it is online. But it's actually a pretty funny twist of fate because for somebody that loves 3D fighting games as much as I do, especially Virtual Fighter, the idea that I don't know a single person that has ever even played one of the games that I could sit in the same room and have some matches with is a bummer, but kind of a funny one because as much as I've loved playing the games online, there's nothing as good as being in the same room as somebody else when you're playing a fighting game so you can actually see them and just kind of have a little bit more of that fun vibe going on because you can shit talk, you can celebrate, and you can basically just sit there and have a great time. But it's one of those things, if I can get online alone, I will definitely take it. Time for the second soundtrack sample so you can catch the vibes one more time, and I'll be right back with a bit more.
Round 1, fight!
I mean, definitely sounds like Tekken 3 to me, definitely plays like Tekken 3 to me as well. Now the only issue I had with my entirety of the capture has nothing to do with the gameplay or any of the modes. It has to do with the fact that the FMV intro sequence was flashing every so slightly a black frame here and there, and even though that has nothing to do with your enjoyment of actually playing the game, it was one issue that I did want to notate. And for people that care about how these are made, I did see mention of Claude in the repo. There is a little bit of Johnny 5 involvement here and a little bit of human involvement. So if that's something you want to avoid, you know about it now, and if it's something you don't really mind, well, you know about it as well. But at the end of the day, a Tekken 3 recomp definitely could be a very big thing if the development community and modding community want to rally around it and bring more to it. If that doesn't happen, then you just get a static recomp of Tekken 3, one of the best games on PlayStation 1 in my opinion. And that's really basically going to be the reality of all the recomps and PC ports coming out in the future. It just depends on how much sort of traction they get. But that's basically like any game that comes out these days, especially the online only games. If there isn't a community that plays, if they don't do numbers, then they basically go away about 2 weeks after they come out. So I don't know if we're going to be hearing about Tekken 3 and static recomps for the next year, or if this is the last time we're going to be hearing about it. But honestly, it's just fun to cover these sort of projects. I know a lot of people have been talking about Tekken 3 recomps when we talk PlayStation 1 recomps, so I figured I'd show it to you guys. Short of that, we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.